Greetings, friends. Will Menaker here. I am going in just a few seconds. I will be talking to the president of the newly formed Amazon Union, Chris Smalls. But sit tight. We'll be back after that. He was a busy man. It's only a 20-minute interview, but we'll be back after that with fresh Chapo for this week. So, without further ado, Chris Smalls of the Amazon Union. Okay. Joining me now is the man of the hour here in New York, and now the rest of the country. It's Chris Smalls, president of the newly formed Amazon Union. Chris, how's it going?
Thank you for having me. It's going crazy, but it's crazy good for a good reason.
Yeah, it's pretty busy, I'd imagine. Before I get into the history of what you've done here, I just want to ask, what are the status of negotiations now, like with a contract, and where do you and the union stand now as it relates, like Amazon and getting a contract at the JFK 8 facility?
Yeah, well, as we can expect, the company going to fight us tooth and nail. So we're in the beginning stages of it. We're still trying to get certified officially at the disputes that they're going to raise this coming days. So we're preparing ourselves for that. There's going to be a little uphill legal battle to get this all sorted out. But after this legal battle is over and we're officially certified, we're going to continue to walk and chew bubblegum at the same time and propose our contract right away. We're not going to hesitate or wait. We don't want this to be a long, dragged out process. Long, drawn out process. So we're going to start right away with that.
All right. Well, I mean, so what brought you to this moment? I mean, you started out working there. What was the light that went off in your head that thought hey, maybe we could use a union here at this Amazon facility?
Oh yeah, definitely. My journey started 2 years ago when I led a walkout outside of the same facility that we just unionized, JFK. I led a walkout over COVID-19. I was fired publicly 2 hours later. Then Jeff Bezos himself signed off on a smear campaign raised by his general counsel, calling me not smart or articulate, ironically making the face of the unionizing efforts. And, when I continued to advocate for workers' rights for about a year and a half, we started our campaign here in Staten Island. We wanted to bring it back home. And we started unionizing and organizing. And we realized that we had something special where we can get it done. And it was working for us. A brand new worker-led independent union with no major backing, no establishment behind us. We seen that this resonated with the Amazon workers more so we continue to do so.
I mean, a lot has been written about, what the conditions are like in these Amazon facilities. I was wondering if you could just describe for us, what is a typical day at the JFK 8 facility?
Oh, wow. But I used to tell my new hires, they got a gym membership, they got to cancel it. So these buildings are 14 NFL football fields. The size, they're almost about 1.5 million square feet, are just under that. You're walking around doing 10 to 12 hours of calisthenics. And, your commute could be 2.5 hours. If you live, depending on where you live in New York City or New Jersey, like myself, your commute was long. So that's not even including your commute. Your days are almost like 16-hour days. So the physicality of the job is definitely a huge reason why workers don't last very much long at the company.
And Amazon, from a management level on down to the the pickers, as they're called in these facilities. I mean, they're a company that sort of prides itself on having a high turnover for workers because they don't want people feeling complacent or comfortable in any job.
Right. No. Yeah. That's the name of the game. Hire and fire. When Amazon is offering to hire 100,000 people, 150,000 people nationwide, it seems like it's a good thing to get praised about it, creating jobs, but they're not really creating jobs. It's more like recycling. They're hiring and firing. So that's the reason why, this union is important.
How aware were you and your fellow organizers of the other union effort that took place in Bessemer, Alabama, that lost the vote initially? How aware were you of what they were doing in Bessemer, and did you try to change anything? Why do you think that you guys were successful where Bessemer initially failed?
Well, we paid attention to what they had going down there. We actually drove down there, 16 hours down there, their first campaign, to see and witness what they had on the ground. And what we noticed is that they didn't really have too much of a workers' committee inside the building the way we do here in Staten Island. That was one of their their biggest mistakes. The first campaign was not really working on that workers committee inside the building, because it's important to have a presence on the inside. Myself, I was on the outside of the building. So I stayed and I pretty much slept at the bus stop outside of JFK for the last 11 months. And that helped. We had an inside outside game. We had organizers that were vocal in the building, that were wearing the AOU shirts from day one. And we were passing them out inside the building, just showing workers that you can't be afraid when you're going up against your employer. You got to stay militant and stay together. And that also helped, as a key part to getting to where we are.
So you were at the bus stop and you were talking to people who are like coming home from work or arriving at
Yeah.
the facility, and then you talk about like this a workers committee that's like inside the facility itself. They're wearing the union T-shirts. They're talking to people about forming a union. Could you talk a little bit more about like how those workers committees, like how that operates, and like what was the pitch that they were making to workers to like get them on board with something like this?
Well, it worked because my lead organizers, just like myself, are invested in the company. Derek Palmer, our vice president, he's a 6-year Amazon vet. I opened up 3 buildings. He opened up 2 or 3 himself. So he has a larger influence on his coworkers. His coworkers know who he is. They see him all the time in the media, speaking out about workers' rights, speaking out about their rights because he's an Amazon worker. And that helped encourage workers to not be afraid anymore, because they're like, wow, Derek's been here. He's been with Chris for over 2 years. Derek used to work directly underneath me, and he still hasn't been retaliated against. So the retaliation rumors and stuff like that start to dwindle because he's still employed and he's not, fired or on a final or on a write-up. He's just organizing, and Amazon pretty much can't do anything to him because he's in good standing.
And now, what were some of the tactics that like Amazon and these consulting firms that they hired to counter this unionization effort? Like, how did that work? And like what did they do to counter the efforts of the working committee inside and outside of the building?
Well, I can tell you now, they spent millions of dollars. Wasted millions of dollars because they lost. But I can tell you, they put these workers into classrooms every 20 minutes for the last several months. Several months they put them in there every 20 minutes. So imagine walking into work every day and being, herded into a classroom. And then on top of that, you got the union busting signs all over the place. You got the NYPD who arrested us a few times, and myself, I got arrested. Other workers got arrested, not only once but twice. And once again, they're spending millions of dollars with their online ads, Instagram, Facebook, consulting groups to stop the ALU.
Do you think it like sort of backfired for Amazon, who of course like they try to couch everything in terms of like we're a family here, and like a union will mess up that lovely family dynamic between employer and employee, and that we're a nice company, we have benefits, we're good people. Do you think it backfired them when their workers are seeing like the NYPD arresting someone like you or someone trying to bring pizza to the facility?
That's exactly what happened. They handed us a gym right there, and I actually think that's the turning point in the election when they arrested us outside the building for feeding the workers. They knew what we've been doing. We've been doing that since day one. We've been having barbecues, feeding workers every single week, giving workers lunch. Having these cookouts over the summer. So workers knew that what we were doing, and to arrest us for organizing and giving out food was just ridiculous, and that definitely helped flip a lot of undecided people, because they seen how ugly the company can be. And they said that right there was the turning point for them.
So you had a working committee inside the building, and then Amazon brought in their own people also to be inside the building to sort of suss out like individuals who may be sympathetic to the union or intimidate or just like to sell the company line. Like how did you turn that against them? Because I mean, these people are making $300 an hour to do this. Some of them are like,
Yeah.
how did you identify these people and sort of like organize against them?
Yeah, well, we researched every last one of them. They stick out like a sore thumb because they don't look like workers and they're not from New York, so they were easy to spot. And Amazon, it's easy to spot a millionaire in a warehouse. Trust me, I can tell you that.
Where they're walking around with a Red Sox hat inside the
Oh,
facility or something?
yeah, well, first of all, if you're walking around with khakis on and some nice shoes and some nice $1,000 jackets on, you're actually not an Amazon worker. I can tell you that right now. So we exposed them. And that's what we did. We made like most wanted signs. We put their salaries up. We put their faces up. Y'all watch my Twitter page. I always shared, information about who they are, what they're doing, how much money they're making. Um, that also helped the workers point them out as well. They're like, oh, that's a union buster. So we made it fun. We even made it like to catch a Pokemon type game. We told the workers like, if you see a union buster, let us know right away so we can expose them. And it also
Gotta catch
backfired as
them
well.
all.
Got to catch them all.
But I mean, obviously, like the fear that is being played upon in like any anti-union campaign is the idea that you'll lose your jobs and you'll lose your benefits. And for a company like Amazon that's as big as Amazon, they can actually afford to give benefits on day one to their workers. So like, and then a lot of times, like the other job opportunities in the like the neighborhoods or communities where these facilities are genuinely worse than the ones that they have at Amazon. So like when you talk to a worker, like how do you confront that very real fear about like I don't want to lose of what little good I do have and to risk something better than this?
Well, yeah, the educational part is the most important part. That's what we did first. We didn't come over there as an established union. We came over there as a coworker, or former or current, and we explained to them like we're not making enough money, even though we're getting paid better than competitors, because they always compare themselves to Walmart, Target, et cetera. Um, we're not making enough money to live a sustainable lifestyle. We're getting on a bus, and half of the workers don't even pay to get on the bus because they can't afford it. Half of the workers are living on government subsidiaries, are homeless. There's workers living in the shelters that's going to Amazon, $1 trillion company. That doesn't make any sense. So the benefits, the pay, wages are not sustainable. Myself, I was capped out at $25 an hour, and I had a second job. So they cap you out from the time you're entry level. After 3.5 years, you get no more raises from one of the richest retailers in the world. So imagine that somebody that's been there 10 years is still getting paid the same amount of money that somebody that's been there 3.5 years. So it just doesn't make any sense. And they took away a lot of things that can also help us out financially as well, like becoming a shareholder. They stopped that as well in 2018.
Traditionally, like I think, like companies, the way they like discipline like a workforce is the threat of moving the factory where people work. Now, I think we're seeing something interesting now with Amazon and now with Starbucks. These votes of workers there voting to unionize. It's more difficult for companies of that size because their entire business model is based around being everywhere all the time. They can't just sort of like move, just like not have a fulfillment facility in New York City.
Yeah.
So, like, I mean, like, were you aware of that? Did you use that to your advantage?
Yeah, there's always that fear that, oh, if you guys unionize, they're going to close the building down. That is a myth. Amazon has unionized buildings. They're just not here in America until April 1st. There's several, all the buildings in Germany, all the buildings in Spain are already unionized. So they know how to work with unionized facilities, number one. Number two, JFK is the main vessel in New York greater area, hands down. That facility has 8,300 workers that we just unionized. That building makes $40 million a day. I don't think they're going anywhere.
So, like, okay, you've won the union vote, like in these contract negotiations. What do you like? What are you asking for? I mean, like, what's on the table here? What are you hoping to improve in the conditions at the JFK 8 facility and in Amazon in general?
Well, we guarantee the fight for these things.